Hello, I am an old fart, and I have a guilty pleasure. I like knives. I'm not an expert or an official representative of anything or anyone in any way. I just like knives. You're watching one of a series of videos where I'm giving a tour through some of the more interesting knives in my collection of small folding pocket knives. Today we're going to look at this one, the Benchmade Model 565-1 Mini Freek. Recent addition to the collection that I like quite a lot, and I'd like to take a moment and tell you why. Where did this come from? Well, quite a while ago, I acquired a Benchmade Mini Griptillian. In fact, it was my first sort of serious, considered modern pocket knife purchase, and I think I mentioned that in my first video. And I think I mentioned something along the lines of it would have got a higher score for my gentleman's knife category if it had more exotic materials rather than just the black plastic and ordinary steel. That will bring us to this knife. I had become aware of the Mini Freek knife because I like knives in this size category and I keep an eye on the market. And I saw some reviewers that I really respect talking about this knife and saying that they liked it a lot. And I liked the sound of what I was hearing and the action and the blade and so on. And it probably would have come along eventually. But then what happened was this special run. This is the -1 version. And the -1 version means that it has an upgraded blade steel and a carbon fiber body. And I really like both the steel they chose and carbon fiber. So I couldn't resist that. Picked one up. And I thought, gee, maybe it is best defined as a upgraded Mini Griptillian. It has a similar size and shape, just a little more interesting materials. Well, the lesson is no, it is much more than just an upgraded Mini Griptillian. Although it's a similar size, it is quite a different knife. So we'll go through that. So let's do a description. Formally, it's Benchmade. It is the 565-1 Mini Freek. God knows where they get their names, but anyway, there you are. 565 is the model for the Mini Freek, and the -1 indicates that it's the upgraded model. And the upgrade consists, as far as I can figure out, of three things. One is the blade steel is upgraded. This is S90V. It has the red anodized thumb studs that match the red anodized back spacers, so a little splash of color, and the solid carbon fiber scales. So that's the 565-1. This is a Mini Freek. There is also a non-Mini Freek, the 560. I don't own one of those, and I don't know how much bigger it is, but if it is essentially the same knife and just larger, I imagine I would like it. So the mechanism, well, it's like many Benchmades. It's a thumb stud opening knife and an axis lock. I have several of those, and I must say it's considerably smoother than some of them. In particular, the axis lock cams there, that motion is very smooth. I may have mentioned on my 940 that the action is gritty and not a pleasant feeling. Not so on this knife. That is a really smooth operation, and I like it. And the thumb stud is easy to open. I like thumb studs. And has an advantage that we'll get to in a second. Let's talk about the blade. The blade is exactly 3 inches in length. Again, I don't know what exactly 3 inch does if you're in one of those jurisdictions that says under 3 inches. So is this in or out of legality? I don't know. Go check. More important measurements. My now standard scale. I will call this about 0.95 pocket calculators. So that's a good reference that I'm sure is meaningful. And since I am comparing it to the Mini Grip, let me just pull that in, and you can see this, that it is actually slightly larger than the Mini Griptillian. The handle is slightly longer. The blade is slightly longer, about 0.1 inches longer for the blade length. And that 0.2 inches, 0.1 in the blade, 0.1 in the handle, is actually noticeable. It just seems to fit the hand a little better than the Mini Grip. With the carbon fiber body, it's quite light. I should mention it doesn't have full liners. It has partial steel liners. See if you can see them. There you go. You can see them reflecting in there. So it's quite light. In numbers, it's 77 point something grams compared to 79 point something for the Mini Griptillian. So only a couple of grams lighter than the Mini Griptillian, but it feels lighter. Remember, it is both lighter and larger, so definitely less massive, and you do notice that difference in weight when holding it. The blade I mentioned, SV90, is a great steel. Very fond of SV90 steel. Holds the edge really well. There's quite aggressive jimping on the back, so good, solid purchase for the thumb sitting there. I think the blade is thicker than the blade on the Mini Griptillian. I forgot to measure it. Maybe not. Perhaps those are exactly the same. Unlike the Mini Grip, or different than the Mini Grip, the grind goes back quite a bit farther on the blade. And I think that and a few other things make the blade very handsome. We'll come back to that. The clip on this, there we are, is a shallow carry clip, and it is remountable to the other side, so you can do left or right hand carry, but there is no option to mount it on the other end, so it is tip-up carry only. You could presumably put one of the Benchmade deep carry clips on it that they make available, but it wouldn't work well on this knife because the deep carry clips go this way and then fold back on themselves, and it would cover and block the lanyard hold. So the position of the lanyard hole basically rules out the deep carry clip. It's something I'm not that crazy about. But anyway, that's why I've left it as shallow carry. Finally, now talking about the clip, since you can move the clip to the other side, and it is a double thumb stud knife, it is essentially fully ambidextrous. Okay. Axis lock means you unlock it from the center, no side bias. Double thumb stud, movable clip. So now I can't do it because my left hand is too awkward, but it is a fully ambidextrous knife. You can set it up for a lefty and you will be just fine. I would call it 99% ambidextrous because there is one difference, and that is that the pivot screw is one-sided. There's the screw head. On the other side, it's a flat bushing. So if you set it up for left hand, the opening on the pivot screw is going to be on the other side of your hand. Not that that matters, but just for the technical point, it's not 100% ambidextrous. So what do I like about this knife? I like it rather a lot. I like to just hold it. It's larger yet lighter than the Mini Griptillian, so it just feels good in the hand. It's a pleasant size and weight. Just fits my fingers, and a nice grooving on the body that does hold the fingers in a good position. Meaningful jimping on the back of the blade, so it's a comfortable, secure knife to hold onto. I think I've already mentioned I like the blade. I like S90 steel. It sharpens really sharp, although with some effort. It's not an easy thing to sharpen. So you put some time into it with diamond stones, and you get a really sharp edge, and the edge will last a long time because it is known for edge retention. And I like the blade. I like drop point blades in general. The Mini Grip is also a drop point blade, but as you can see, this blade has more metal in it, thicker towards the point end. The grind comes higher on the blade, and I don't know what word to use, but I just find it a good-looking blade. I find it handsome, and I really like it. I like to look at it. It has a gentle belly, but a usable belly, so that it's quite possible to start cuts off the belly of the blade. A decent point for spearing, but not so pointy that it's scary looking. So I think the blade is a really nice design. I like the mechanism. I like the smooth mechanism. It's running on phosphor bronze washers, and it's very smooth. It can be set to be flickable and drop shutty. Here it is set to drop shutty. I presently have it set that way. I'm not sure I like the drop shuttiness. I might tighten it up a little bit. not many of my knives are set for drop shot, and it scares me a little bit when that blade starts falling and I realize, my hand is down there. So maybe I'll get used to it, or maybe I'll back it away a little bit and tighten it up just a little bit so that you have to press it closed. Locks really well. The axis lock does not depend on how hard you flick it open, like some frame lock or liner lock knives do. And one of the things I really like about axis locks is that when you start closing it, your fingers are not in harm's way. Whereas with a liner lock or a frame lock, you have to have your thumb here to start the unlock, and your body parts are in harm's way of the blade. So axis locks have always given me a nice, safe feeling like that. I like the appearance of the body. It's a pleasantly rounded shape, and it's sculpted in 3 dimensions. Turn it there. I think you can see there. So there are bevels here. There's a 3-dimensional shape as well as the shape in this direction. Some of the simpler knives tend to be just flat planes. I think this looks nicer and it feels better in the hand. Now, some things I don't like. I said I like the shape of the body, and I do, but it is a little bit thick. It feels a little thick. Now, interestingly, it is slightly thicker than the Mini Griptillian, but not much thicker. I think the reason that it feels thicker is that it's larger and lighter and yet thicker. And so the thickness maybe is a little more in proportion to those other metrics. But anyway, it just seems a little bit chunky to hold. I think it's beautiful, but it's not classy. It's not, wood grain finish and such things. But I think it's a beautiful knife. And I don't really like the fact that the shallow carry is sort of enforced. If you change it over to a deep carry clip, you're blocking the lanyard hole. Not necessarily that I would want a lanyard, but having a hole blocked just looks like a design error. So I don't particularly like the way that it enforces using the shallow carry clip. So, minor complaints, I know. Now let's go through my internationally unknown knife rating systems. First, the NTGK rating. NTGK being for non-threatening gentleman's knife. Non-threatening first. I usually like to look at 2 things. Is the shape scary and is the mechanism scary? So is the shape scary? I would say not too much. It's not a huge knife. The drop point blade is pleasant. It's not so pointy that it looks like it was primarily designed for stabbing things. And I think that there are no gaudy markings or shapes on the handle that make it look like it was designed to be a weapon. So I'd say the shape is not too scary. Also very important for being non-threatening is, can you open the knife in a non-threatening manner? And with this knife, yes, you can. You don't have to flick it open. Flicking a knife open sets off people's switchblade reactions. And a technical lecture about an automatic knife at that point is too late. So in an environment where people are nervous, it's important to be able to open a knife slowly, and you can do this. You can open it slowly one-handed. And to be even less threatening, you can open it slowly two-handed. And even when you're opening it slowly, it gets a good lock. So I think the mechanism is not scary. I give it an A for that. As a gentleman's knife, I'm going to say a B+. It's handsome. The carbon fiber is classy. But gentlemen's knives often go more like the teak paneling and cigar look, and this isn't that. This is a handsome, functional knife, not designed to be pocket decoration. So it's a light in the pocket, which is nice, so it carries lightly, but it is a bit thick and chunky, and with the shallow carry clip, it's not a beautifully pocketable knife. It could be a little better. So I'd give it a B+ for GK. So as an NTGK, non-threatening gentleman's knife, I would call it a B+ overall. Next rating, KN rating, which is for knife nerds. What will my knife nerd colleagues think of this knife? For that, I'll give it an A. They'll love this thing. High-end steel, everybody likes S90V. Sexy carbon fiber bodies, everybody likes that. Pretty anodizing, splash of color matching the splash of color in the back spacers. Great mechanism, opens nicely, closes nicely. I will say it's not super flicky without being set quite loose. To get it to flick open so easily, you have to allow it to close quite easily. Ideally, I would like an in-between where it flicks open beautifully, but closes with a little more detent. So anyway, I'm going to give it an A as a knife nerd rating. Finally, the CMR, cut myself rating. On that, it scores a B because I have cut myself with it. It is possible to cut the heel of your hand when closing the knife, if you have it, especially if you have it set for dropping shut, and I've done that. My fat, meaty heel of my hand set here, knife falls close and nicks me on the way by. I've done that a couple of times before I learned to be careful about where my meat was before I start closing the knife. So it gets a B as a CMR. That brings us to the end. Just as a summary, I like this knife a lot. It's just slightly larger than the Mini Griptillian, which I already like a lot, yet lighter. More exotic materials, something to be sort of more pleased to be carrying around, and a beautifully smooth mechanism that flicks open and falls shut very nicely. I wouldn't say it's an office handsome knife, but it's certainly an easy to carry high-end utility knife. I would take it to my everyday office, but not to my board meeting. That's it. The Benchmade Mini Freek 565-1, the carbon fiber version. I like it a lot. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.